Yeah. Hi, I'm John,
Oh, hi, I'm Christian. Yeah.
and welcome back. We hope you enjoyed our last podcast. Today, we want to continue from where we left off. Last time when we spoke, we were speaking about do you need to prepare for the second coming of Jesus Christ? And I hope you had a chance to even tune into some of our podcasts from the conference, the spring conference that we had here in Germany, regarding the ultimate goal of the Christian life, which is to become kings and priests, together with Christ in his coming millennial kingdom age. But we want to continue on in our discussion today as to what will really happen when Jesus Christ comes again.
Right.
Right? That's
Yes. Yeah, that's what we just talked about lately, right? How to continue.
yeah,
And I think it's really a good point, right? To see
right.
what is going to happen when Jesus comes. Because if you talk to so many Christians, I think the general understanding is, okay, Christ will come back
Yeah.
and we'll all go to heaven and we'll be there
right.
on the clouds, and we'll have wonderful music,
Yep.
and we can follow all kinds of things we like to do, right?
Yeah.
Maybe
Playing golf in heaven.
doing things like that. But actually, I thought when we just talked about this, about what is written in the last book of the Old Covenant times,
Yeah.
which is still the Holy Scriptures. It's nothing old. It's just written before Christ came, but speaks about his second coming. And it says here in Malachi 3, it says, who can endure the day of his coming? Who can stand when he appears? For he's like a refiner's fire.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when I read this, it doesn't sound as easy as I hear many times when we go out and talk. It sounds like he comes and there comes fire,
Right.
and there comes judgment, right?
Yes.
And here in this verse, it actually doesn't say there's going to be judgment only for the world.
Right.
I mean, looking at this world today, it is beyond. It definitely, there's judgment necessary.
Yeah, because we see evil everywhere.
It is, yeah. I mean, in the USA, in Europe, everywhere you go, right?
Exactly. Right.
And then, but here he says he will actually purify his people. And I think when you read the word, it is so different. It's not gonna be just a wonderful rapture, we go to the clouds and that's it.
Right. Right.
But there's going to be a judgment.
yeah.
And then what he will do, he's going to bring his kingdom down, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, when I thought about it, I also thought about Daniel 2. I mean, we have talked a lot about Daniel 2
Right.
in the church before.
Yeah.
And there you see all these kingdoms of the world and a
Yes.
statue.
Right.
But at the end, the stone comes and hits the statue,
Yeah.
destroys all the kingdoms of the world,
Right.
and builds God's kingdom on the earth.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
this is amazing because lately I had a talk with a family and I mentioned it's gonna be on the earth, and they wouldn't believe me.
I say the same thing. I've been talking to many people, and everyone just keeps telling me. And you can even listen to the podcast on all the popular channels like Spotify. They say, yeah, when the Lord, just before the Lord comes, the whole church will be raptured and everyone will be fine.
Yeah.
And judgment is only on this evil world, but nothing about judgment for us. So this refiner's fire is not definitely for the world. It's for somebody.
Right, it's for us,
Yes.
his people.
Exactly.
And then when he brings the kingdom on this earth, right?
Right.
I mean, I think a lot of people know Isaiah 11 maybe,
Okay.
the kingdom of peace
Yes.
that he's going to bring.
Right.
And he's going to bring it to this earth.
Yeah.
But I thought just today about something. Who is going to be in this kingdom when he comes? Right? And in the book of Matthew,
Right.
just one other thing that came to my mind when we talked about the kingdom was first in Revelation.
Yes.
And we mentioned it last time, the kingdom has to do with the priesthood.
Yes.
And
right.
In Revelation 20, I find it really amazing because it's such a unique portion that really tells us what is really happening when Christ comes.
Mm-hmm.
Revelation 26, he said, "Blessed and holy is he who has part in the first resurrection."
Mm-hmm.
And then he says, those who will be then blessed and holy, they shall be priests of God. That's what we mentioned before.
Yeah.
And of Christ. And then he says, and they shall reign with him, with Christ, 1,000 years.
Exactly.
I don't know. I haven't heard too many talking about 1,000 years kingdom.
No.
But this is actually what my Bible says so clearly. When Christ comes, what will begin is 1,000 years kingdom on this earth.
Right.
And
yeah, and this is consistent with what we even said last week, right? We said there are 3 specific passages in Revelation to back this up, right?
Okay.
In chapter 1, it speaks about him making us kings and priests to our God and our Father.
Mm-hmm.
And then in chapter 5, it also says, and has made us kings and priests to reign on the earth.
Mm-hmm.
Not in heaven, but on earth.
On earth, huh?
And now it tells us, and as you point out, we'll be reigning together with Christ as kings and priests for 1,000-year millennial kingdom age. And you're right, that is not being talked about much.
Right.
In fact, whenever I try to talk about it, Christian, you won't believe this. They're going to say, "John, why are you trying so hard to become a king and a priest? Why are you spending all this worrying? You shouldn't be worried about that. Just love God, preach the gospel, and you'll be right there."
Well, I know a passage talks about preaching, and
right?
It's actually a warning for every one of us.
Yes, it is.
And this is, I think, what Jesus said in Matthew 7.
Yes, exactly.
This is something is not very popular to read, right?
Right.
But Matthew 7 and 21,
yep.
He said, "Not everyone who says to me, 'Lord, Lord,'" and I cannot imagine like any of my unbelieving colleagues at work,
right.
they will never call Jesus Lord. Right?
Exactly.
To them, it's
Definitely
a
not.
historical person,
Right.
but it's not their Lord.
Yeah.
And then he says, right, they shall not everyone who says, "Lord, Lord." So this 1,000 years kingdom, not every Christian will go in.
Exactly.
When I read this, right?
Definitely not.
And he said, not everyone shall enter the kingdom of heaven. And then here he puts this condition, but he who does the will of my Father in heaven.
Yeah.
So,
but here, this is where everybody goes off. They go, "Well, what is God's will for me?" "Oh, preach the gospel." "Oh, what is God's will for me?" "Build houses in the third world countries." "Oh, wait, God's will for me?" "The music ministry." Everyone has a very different view of what is the will of my Father in heaven. Can you believe that?
But we all have the same Bible, right?
Yes, we have the same Bible. Right? That's why, as you would say, if we go on to verse 22, many will say to me in that day, "Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in your name?" And this is exactly why I said to the person, you said just to preach the gospel. But here it says, "Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in your name, cast out demons in your name, and done many wonders in your name?" That should be good enough, right?
I mean, it's good to preach the gospel.
Yeah.
But then he continues, right?
Right.
And then he says something, I think that's a little difficult sometimes to understand. And he says, "Then I will declare to them," so Jesus will tell them, "I never knew you. Depart from me, you who practice lawlessness."
Yeah, but some will say that's for the unbelievers.
Well, I have actually never heard an unbeliever to speak in the name of the Lord, honestly.
I agree. Totally agree.
Or cast out a demon. I mean, the Lord did not say you did not cast out demons, right?
Right.
But I think what the Lord really wants to tell us that to enter this kingdom when He's going to come,
Right.
we cannot just do something for Him.
Correct.
I mean, I look at my own life, okay? I don't want to talk about others first. But when I look at my own life, how many days I've been doing things for God,
Right.
but did he really tell me to do it?
Exactly.
And I think this is what the Lord meant when he said, I never knew you. What I heard, it means like I don't accept what you have done for me.
Correct.
It's as if I go to my work and my boss will tell me, hey, you should analyze this data. But maybe I think, oh, you know what? This other project is a lot more interesting. And
Right.
I spent my day on that. And at the end of the day, he will ask me, so did you analyze the data? What's the outcome?
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? I just went into a different project. What will he tell me? Right? He will get really mad at me, right?
Yeah.
And I think the same is going to happen when Christ comes back.
Right.
For us to come into this kingdom and reign with him.
Yes.
I mean, how could we reign with him if we're doing all the time something different than he actually wants us to do?
Exactly.
He wants us, okay, you serve me as a priest.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I say, you know, let me do something else, right?
Right.
And then next day he will tell me again, you know, you should learn to serve me as a priest.
Right.
Not in a Catholic sense, right?
Right. Definitely not.
And then I'm just doing something else again.
Yeah.
And then when he comes, then I can reign with him. I think this is what Matthew 7 really wants to tell us.
Yeah. Right.
We need today to listen to him and understand, let's not just do something for him.
Right.
But let's really seek the will of his Father.
Right. And so, yeah, when you finally read that last phrase, you who practice lawlessness, this is not the lawlessness that unbelievers are doing when they're sinning.
Right.
But these are lawlessness because they are not doing the commands of the commands of the Lord. Right. And if Revelation tells us 3 times, actually technically 7 times, that we will become kings and priests, then if we're going to be lawful, then we should know the commands to become kings and priests.
Right.
Right? And this is, so like I said, my friend who would tell me, he goes, John, don't try so hard to become a king and a priest. It's hard to just say, okay, I'm not going to do anything because Matthew chapter 7 tells us otherwise.
Right. I mean, he says he has made us kings and priests. So in a way you are today.
Yeah, we're in training for sure.
Right. And to be a priest of God,
right,
I cannot imagine that this is easier than to do just my job in the company I work for.
Absolutely.
I mean,
yeah, for sure.
To be a priest of God, when I look at the Bible, it is definitely a lot more something to be careful about, to have a fear about, than if I'm just working as an engineer or something, right?
Right.
So, and I think this is really so good to understand and to get clear. When he comes, it's not gonna be for everyone just to go to heaven.
Correct.
Right?
Absolutely.
His kingdom will come. It will come to the earth.
Right.
And at first, it will come 1,000 years. Right.
Yes.
But then, really, to get into this kingdom, when I read there in Revelation, it says all the time, those who are in it, they serve God as priests.
Right. It does.
So we should really get into serving God as priests. Why? We mentioned our conference last time.
Right.
And really hope you also really spend some time to look into this word of this conference.
Yeah.
Because this way of the priesthood, so to say.
Right.
It is actually the real way to get into this kingdom.
Exactly.
Because when you serve God as a priest today, I mean, that is how I understand it. That is the qualification you need to get in.
Exactly. And think about it. Right now, it's abundantly clear from last podcast until now, when the Lord comes, you and I and all of the Christians today should become qualified to be kings and priests, to reign on the earth, to rule within 1,000 years. But where's the training? What kind of training do we need, right? And this is where the priesthood comes in.
Exactly.
Right? If we're going to be good employees let's say you and I are gunning to be promoted to vice presidents. That means we better know what the CEO wants, yeah? And if we are not obedient to our CEO, do you think we'll get to the level of vice president? No, definitely
He will not even consider you.
Exactly. He might even fire us for that, right? But so today, if we are to become co-kings and priests with the Lord, and we're not obedient to him today, and so many different things in our daily lives, we would be disqualified. How can we become kings and priests if we're not obedient to him? Right? And then even to try and do things our own way, but the Lord's fine humanity, his perfect humanity, is definitely what is needed for the coming kingdom age.
Yes.
And then to be peacemakers. Not peacemakers like the UN, but the real peacemakers with God and all of his people.
Right.
Right? We need this kind of training, and this is where the priesthood comes in.
Right. And I think this really was an eye-opener to me. Peter, in 1 Peter 2, he mentioned 2 times the priesthood.
Yes.
For us believers in the New Testament.
Right.
And the first he mentioned it in 1 Peter 2:5, and he mentioned it to be the holy priesthood.
Right.
Definitely what we mentioned last time, we need to be holy when the Lord comes. We cannot stay the same.
Exactly.
I mean, if I would be still the same like I was 20-some years ago when the Lord came in my life, I wouldn't feel very good for him to come now, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But, and the second point, he mentioned in verse 9, then it's called a royal priesthood. And that really was an eye-opener to me, that experiencing Christ the way you just said, as the obedience, as the new man, as the peace in between God and man, which is practically the spiritual offerings. We have to get into that another time, but just to mention it briefly, this is really the pathway into the kingdom.
Exactly.
I think that's why it's called a royal priesthood, because the practice of the priesthood, not just doing something for God, but following his way, will really get us and qualify us into this 1,000 years kingdom.
Right.
And this is all the goal of this podcast about, that we ourselves and many more will really wake up and get a sense we have to prepare because we want to enter this kingdom, and it's not gonna be just by faith. But there will be more to it, and that's the one point I think that has to get clear to all of us. We need to become such holy priests serving God today that we can be qualified. And so we hope that everyone gets a little excited about this and gets into this, because we need to know the path to get into this 1,000 years kingdom. Otherwise, today is this big solar eclipse in the USA.
I know.
I think many see Christ is coming. But now we see how to get in. It is the priesthood, and we really need to get ready. We need to get more into that.
And I fully agree. You know, kings and priests, like what we said last time. How do you become a priest? Well, then we need to get into the Word. As Peter says, we are both a holy priesthood and a royal priesthood. And I would encourage our audience again to really check out the podcast to the spring conference that we just recently had, because it actually gets into more details regarding the priesthood. And if you haven't started listening, I would encourage you to listen to it, because it will give you a jump start in what you can do to get ready for the holy priesthood. But definitely exciting times. Solar eclipse, the coming of Christ is coming soon. And he wants to bring down his kingdom. He wants you and I and all of you out there to become qualified to become kings and priests. Then we better get on this right path. We want to make sure we're not going down the wrong road. We want to go down the path where the Lord will know us and allow us to enter into this coming kingdom age to rule and reign together with him. So again, thank you for joining us. Hit that subscribe button if you want to continue to hear from what we're speaking, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time. Royal priesthood.
Wow. Okay, we should stop.